Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to revisit Human Torch with my CTP of Judgment because, you know, as many CTPs as I have, it always hurts me to throw one on a character and then never use them. Now, if it's like a CTP of Refine, if it's an Egg, or a CTP of Transcendence, something like that, I'm not going to use those characters for the most part. But when it comes to more offensive, expensive CTPs, Energy, Destruction, Rage, Judgment, I actually want to get some use out of them, or otherwise I'd rather just leave them in my inventory, let them sit there until I have an obvious use for them, because just throwing them on a character and then never using the character is just a recipe for spending 600 crystals later to unequip that CTP. So I wanted to try to figure out how I can still make use of Human Torch, and I think I've found the solution. And it's interesting because it changes his playstyle around quite a bit. Now, you know, before in the past, the playstyle with Human Torch was to load up as many strikers that had mind control and all defense down, and then just use your 5 cancel 3 combo. 5 just because it heals and it provides a little bit of AoE, but then 3 you want to land a proc on it, whatever kind of obelisk or CTP you're using, and then it also stacks all defense down. With his new uniform, it also stacks energy attack, and it has a 5-second immunity, and you ride that out for the proc. It's one of those, you know, chain hit damage skills that just keeps going, those infinite skills, those continuous blast skills like Cable's 5th. And then when the proc is over, you stop, you move your joystick, he moves around, and then you just repeat that 5 cancel 3, and that's the whole rotation. And as long as the strikers come in and mind control, you know, things go well. And so I'll show you guys what it looks like, but basically it's not very effective. You can go up to certain levels, but once you get up high enough, even Human Torch just struggles from a lack of lack of punching power. He just doesn't have enough damage once you get up high enough. So we're going to find Human Torch wherever he may be, and then we're going to put him to the test here. We're going to use Ancient One's Leadership, which is going to give us 45% energy attack and 25% elemental damage. And then we're going to throw in Shuri there for some extra buff. Actually, you know what? Instead, let's use Wave, yes. And then, you know, you do something like this. You'd add like 1 Mind Control Striker. You'd go and find... where is Scarlet Witch? You'd go and find 2 Mind Control Strikers. Yeah, you'd use Weapon Hex. You'd use her, and then maybe you'd use Luna, or maybe you'd use Apocalypse for even more mind control. And it can work. It can definitely work, and you can see bursts of extreme damage when you have the perfect lining up of all defense down strikers. But it's still kind of a crapshoot. It's much more consistent now with Scarlet Witch, but it becomes a very uninvolved fight, and this is probably one of the biggest criticisms for this system being bad, is because from here on out, Ebony Maw's not going to attack us. We're just going to sit here. The only thing that can really hurt us is the poison that drops, but otherwise we just use our 3rd skill. We're going to get the strikers to pop in, and yeah, the damage is going to fluctuate. Sometimes you can see the damage is going to be really bad and it's going to slow to a crawl. And then other times the damage is going to be good. It's crawling, but then it might just suddenly spike. And that just really comes down to Scarlet Witch not striking to set a lower bar on all defense down, or, you know, Invisible Woman not striking, but Weapon Hex striking. So there, Weapon Hex strike, and you can see the damage did spike for a second. There, the damage spikes for a second again. You can see that, you know, but it's inconsistent. It's definitely inconsistent. I think you can still get this done, and it's basically foolproof. I mean, you literally just have to keep attacking him, and Scarlet's going to come out every single time. And you could almost just do this. You could almost just hold the 3rd skill, take your hands off your device completely, and just auto. And there's nothing wrong. I mean, there are some things wrong with this, but, you know, it's good and it's bad. It's got some pros and it's got some cons. However, I think that there may be another way of playing Human Torch that actually will be a lot more fun and will actually make a lot more sense. Now, it might not actually end up being as good as this, but I think the part of the reason why this one is so good is actually not because of Human Torch's damage, but actually because of the strikers combining and doing their own damage, and sort of Apocalypse and Scarlet Witch coming in and dealing massive damage because Weapon Hex and Invisible Woman have dropped all that extra all defense down. Now, you know, this might end up looking worse for Human Torch, but essentially what I want to take advantage of, and to sort of revive the playstyle for the character, and also to provide another example of how the all defense down works, I think, And again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you got to check out the Ant-Man video where I went into more depth about the Upside Down Cup. But basically, on his 3rd skill, now he does have all defense. He has a hidden all defense down on his 5th skill. We don't want to use his 5th skill unless we absolutely have to. But on his 3rd skill, he has minus 50% for 5 seconds, and it goes in minus 20 increments. That means if Weapon Hex strikes first, you can apply 100% all defense down in just 5 hits. 5 hits with Flame Blast takes like less than 2 seconds, I would guess, because of how fast the hits are going, because it's a continuous damage skill. So the idea is you attack first with any skill other than 5 or 3. So you start off with 4 or 1 or 2. You will trigger your strikers, i.e. Weapon Hex, to come in and hit Ebony Maw, and then you will open up with 3. Now, this is worse with a regular Obelisk because opening up with 2 or 1 or 4 is probably going to trigger your Obelisk proc, and then you lose all that damage on 3. So this is not really as viable of a strategy if you have a regular Obelisk. It can work. It's just a lot more difficult, and you probably have to sacrifice your first proc, and then from then on the 2nd and 3rd procs, you can activate the strikers just before the proc activates, and then 3 when the proc lands. But it's much, much easier with the CTP of Judgement, and that might actually make Human Torch a decent choice for a CTP of Judgement, specifically against Ebony. So we're going to go in with essentially the same team, but this time we're going to take away some of the strikers. We're only going to use Weapon Hex because, like Captain America, like Ant-Man, Human Torch can apply his own all defense down, and then we're just going to bring along strikers that can do damage and will augment our DPS without interfering with the all defense as Scarlet Witch and Invisible Woman might. There is some synergy there, but we don't want anyone but Weapon Hex applying all defense down just to make things clearer and to make the timing a lot easier and for it to feel less random. Now, full disclosure, this might end up being worse than what I showed you before, just because the strikers last time were applying so much mind control, and Scarlet and all those were applying mind damage resistance down, and then Apocalypse is coming in with mind damage and things like that. So this might actually be worse, but for people who say, we can have more fun in World Boss with specific strikers, did I just die? Wow. It's so much worse. All right, so before this video turns into a meme, I don't know why I died. Let's just try this again. We got a little bit unlucky there, but essentially we want to open up with any skill that's not the skills that provide all defense down, and then Weapon Hex is going to come in. I think she was actually late there, so that's not really a good example of what we want. We want the all defense down to go away. We want to see Weapon Hex striking, and then we want to come in and drop. There we go. We want to come in and drop, and then you just leave. And then you come back and you do another skill. Weapon Hex is going to come in, and then you will hit after her. It's a lot harder to see what's going on with 5 strikers, so actually I want to do this again with less strikers. So the great thing about this strategy is that you will be able to visually see the ramp up from when Weapon Hex hits to when your all defense down peaks at 100%. So the bar starts to move slowly, but as your proc gets closer to 1 second, and as you stack more attacks, it gets closer. It ramps up to 100%, and then his damage really starts to fly by in a much more obvious way because of the fact that Weapon Hex has provided that initial burst, and now you're just stacking on top of her. So you can see here that we're able to emulate very similar results to what we were getting before with 5 expensive strikers. While we're just using, in this case, 2 strikers, and we're just allowing Weapon Hex to come in and set the tone. There we screwed it up, so we have to reset. Resetting basically means not hitting him for a few seconds and allowing Weapon Hex to apply her all defense down first, and then even starting with the co-op ability, and then coming in afterwards with your 3rd skill, and then just making sure that you don't hold the 3rd skill for more than 5 seconds. That's kind of the key here. You sort of have to count it in your head, or look up at the clock when you start and when you finish, and then allow Weapon Hex to just come in and come out. I'm not doing the greatest job. There we go. This is much better. So then we stop. Okay, we're going to do it again. We're going to ask her to come back in and strike. There she's striking. We can see her very clearly. And now, okay. And so you can see here that we can actually achieve a clear. Not only can we clear this with 2 strikers, which is much, much cheaper than using, Apocalypse, Scarlet Witch, and all these expensive strikers, but it clearly illustrates the advantage of bringing just 1 all-defense striker along, and then allowing that to stack up with your own all-defense down. on top of it. So there she's striking for us. We're going to use the co-op skill. And then there we can pour on really good damage for about 5 seconds. We're going to call her back in. There's Rachel. Where's Weapon Hex? Where's Weapon Hex? There she is. Okay, now we hit after her. And that's why the CTP of Judgment is good, because you don't have to worry about being at the beginning of the proc. Again, this is a very specific situation, and I don't expect you guys to go out there and gamble for CTPs of Judgment just to give one to Johnny, just to do this. But what this does is it illustrates the advantage of all defense down. It illustrates maybe some mistakes you're making. So you can see here the damage is really bad because I applied my own all defense down first ahead of Weapon Hex with the 5th skill. So that's why we avoid using the 5th skill unless we need it for healing. Instead, we just rely on Weapon Hex to come in and apply hers. And then we will stack on top of it. And you can see there the damage will start to ramp up rather quickly. We can use the co-op skill as well because Johnny does his second, I believe, with the co-op. And then there we go. We stack it. 3, 2, 1. We stop it. And this is also good practice for your own internal timing for other characters' damage procs in general because they're all on a 5-second timer. So we're just going in. We're cycling through non-all defense down skills. And then we're coming in afterwards and we're dropping that all defense down after Weapon Hex has started to fill in that... I'm going to die here. To fill in that upside down cup. Now we're gonna have to use the 5 here because I need to heal, and we died anyways. Okay, the video is officially a meme. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. He can definitely clear stage 79. I actually cleared it yesterday with Human Torch. I don't know if I'll be able to show you guys when I go over here. No, it's my highest clears with was actually yesterday as well with Psylocke, but I did clear it yesterday with that team with Human Torch 79. And you just throw on 5 other striker or 3 more strikers on top of that, and it even goes even faster. I was just doing that to show you guys what it looks like if you're trying to nail down the timing. Even I was having troubles with the timing, but I'm also recording and talking to you guys and explaining what I'm doing at the same time. If I can just focus and not talk, it becomes a lot easier. But it also becomes a lot easier when you throw in more strikers to do even more damage. And he can clear. I think he cleared it with at least like a minute and a half to spare. So that's really good news for Human Torch fans. If you're a Human Torch fan out there, and if you have, especially if you have also a CTP of Judgment lying around, or if you get one from a login event, check-in event, something like that, you can rest maybe more easily knowing that you actually have some use for it, and that he can take advantage of it given his skill set, given his skills and his abilities and how they sort of interact with the CTP of Judgment and create positive synergy, especially when you can pair him up with an all defense down striker. Now Weapon Hex is pretty much the only option here because he goes up to -50. Most characters are around -40 to -60, so they're not going to help. There's going to need to be a character that stacks way higher than 50% but less than 100% to even be close to Weapon Hex, like someone who can stack up to -80 or -90 for 5 seconds. The reason why you want to match the timing is because I'm not really sure what happens if you stack a minus all defense down inside of another all defense down stack when it's 10 seconds versus 5 seconds. I'm not really sure what the game does with that information. For example, you know, Weapon Hex drops her -100 for 5 seconds. If I fill that up with Negasonic, because Negasonic is -30 per hit, so she really quickly in 3 hits she fills that up, but it's 10 seconds. So I don't know what the game does after those 5 seconds. Does it check again and then drop that -100 stack down to -60 to match Negasonic's Warhead charge, or does it retain that -100 for the full 10-second stack because it's basically been extended by her? The other trick is then, you know, if Weapon Hex strikes in the middle again, is she going to be filling up her own 100 that's been refreshed, or is she going to be filling up the -60, or is she going to be doing nothing? In which case you're going to have to pause anyways after the initial 10 seconds, back up, let Weapon Hex strike again, and then go back in, which does create a bit of a annoying playstyle. I think it's easier to manage a 5-second interval because that more closely matches the 5-second boost on a CTP or on an Obelisk or on a Judgment, whereas 10 seconds is in the middle and it becomes really messy because it's like 1.5 procs kind of thing. So anyways, let me know what you guys think of Human Torch level 79 Ebony Maw and possibly higher, and let me know what you think of the Weapon Hex combo being exploited even further with the CTP of Judgment this time around. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.